So today I'm only gonna be talking about I'm actually gonna be talking about the anime and the manga. Um, because I've seen both. Before this review, I read the manga for the first time for this section because I started after Mugen Train with the manga, so I've never actually read this before. I wanted to see similarities and differences. Um, so I read Final Selection, First Mission Arc, and Asakusa, which I'll talk about fully why I wanted to talk about these specific arcs in the main part of the video. Hello and welcome to episode 1 of my Demon Slayer review. And I had this whole script and I was thinking this whole big like thing for it. Like I wanted to break down categories and break it down arc by arc. And I'm still probably gonna go break them down by like arcs and chunks and sections and stuff. But I really just kind of want to look at Demon Slayer. I kind of want to just like I think I want to just casual talk this. I think by trying to make it like super scripted and stuff, kind of takes away from the my thoughts of it in a way. So I just have notes here. I'm just gonna talk about Demon Slayer. That's it. That's it. That's all I really want to do. Um, so I'm just gonna break them down arc by arc, kind of talk about my feelings towards these arcs and why I think they are, and my whole feelings towards this series as a whole. The reason why I chose these first 3 arcs as my like big introduction to the series is well for this review is because these arcs are kind of the early getting to know the world, getting to know the characters type deal. This is Tanjiro and Nezuko in their most standard. Like, this is how they first start off, and these are kind of just introducing us to them as characters before we get into more characters and really getting into upper moons and more bigger, grander stuff. And this is kind of just early charming Demon Slayer. I think that's how I really describe this early on. Just charming. Like it's just really fun. It hasn't really gotten into super epic battles at this point, and the fights are fucking great in this part. But they're like not Demon Slayer fights, if you know what I mean, where they're like 5D brain coming up with super cool strategies. It's really just like it's really just Tanjiro hitting things, and I think that works for what we have here. Going into the arcs, the Final Selection arc, the first arc in the series, um, I gave a 20 out of 25 in my rating, and I'm probably gonna keep rating them, but I'm not gonna really go super in depth with how I rated them and stuff. I'm just gonna give you a final scores. If you want to know, I can explain it more in the next episode. But the reason why I gave it this is because it is definitely not the most visually distinct. It is out of my ratings here. It's actually the worst visual rating. That's because it's like really basic beginner. There's not a lot of cool, super big actiony pieces yet, and there's not much they can do with this. The plot and the characterization are both like pretty basic, pretty standard at this point. I mean, we're getting to know our characters, we're getting to know everyone, and Tanjiro is pretty like. I think Tanjiro from day one is pretty like Tanjiro, if you know what I mean. He never really grows as a character too much. Obviously becomes stronger, but something like Inosuke or Zenitsu that go through a bunch of character development in the future. I'm gonna try and keep this pretty spoiler free, but I did just talk about that by accident. Tanjiro is a pretty static character, which static protagonist is okay as long as they have substance to them in other senses, because Tanjiro, a good static protagonist, is one that helps the characters around them grow and develop. Like Mr. Rokudaki, I guess even the spirits pretty early on. For every demon, Tanjiro's kindness is really what defeats them in the end. A lot of the times, especially in this like final fight way later on in the manga, if you know what I'm talking about. Like Tanjiro's kindness is such a strong character trait this early in the series, and the whole series, and they really stick with that. Nezuko is a pretty weak character, I'll be honest. I love Nezuko. She's so cool, she's so cute and stuff, but like that's it. She's really just cute bait, but I think that's totally fine for what she needs to be at this point in the series. And she gets a lot more development later on and stuff. A little bit, especially towards certain arcs that again I keep wanting to talk about them, but I'm trying to go this one at a time. Um when it comes to like this arc is overall just pretty entertaining. I mean, the first episode, just talking about the first episode, first chapter, because they, 1 to 1, because chapters, because there's really 2 episodes, one chapter. I mean, 2 chapters in one episode, but chapter ones usually get like double length because they're big premieres of big new series. And this first chapter or first episode, um, really gets you invested in Tanjiro and Nezuko and their bond. I hear a huge criticism towards Demon Slayer is that they don't really get you super duper invested in the family this really. Which, like, I don't know what you want them to do. They give you, like, one scene. Maybe they could have given you a second scene. But at that point, you're starting to drag it on. And that kills Demon Slayer's stellar pacing. I think a lot of people fail to mention how fucking amazing Demon Slayer's pacing is. Like, it is such a quick, snappy show. It stops for a second when it needs to, and then just keeps going, keep moving forward, which I think is a huge I don't know if it's meant to be like that, but that's a lot of that goes hand in hand with a lot of Tanjiro's mindset during this whole series, as he just needs to keep going. Yeah, after everything, even after everything he's been through. Um, they really get you invested in Tanjiro and Nezuko in the first like chapter and episodes and stuff. Um, next up would be this is still the first arc, which is Final Selection. So that actually goes right into stuff with Orokodaki, who's a really cool teacher character. He's pretty standard. He stern, kind of strict teacher. He's kind of a dick, but he cares about Tanjiro deep down. And Tanjiro, meets up with the ghost twins. Spoilers, they're ghosts. Woo, who are Sabito and Makomo, who are pretty cool characters. They're pretty fun. Sabito kind of being like this asshole that's really pushing Tanjiro forward, and Makomo being this kind of lighthearted one. She's more like helping push Tanjiro, like helping him. While Sabito is more like stricter on his teaching, and they both kind of act as mentors for Tanjiro in this first arc. And when Tanjiro finally catches his first W of the whole series, because if you paid attention through all of this, he's been just losing constantly and getting fucked over constantly. Seeing him finally win, seeing him finally like conquer this like huge feat when he beats Sabito and cuts through the boulder, and then Orokodaki rewards him and tells him, "You're such a amazing boy. You're truly amazing." This is like a really emotional scene as we finally get to see like Tanjiro get a W and we see him get praised for once. And this is one of my favorite scenes of like this whole arc, really. Um, which if we just shorten everything down to that, that's basically everything that happens in that little section of the story. We go right into Final Selection, which is way quicker than I remember it being. Tanjiro fights two demons at the same time, and that's the first time we get to see water breathing and breathing techniques in general. All ending with the fight against the hand demon, which I think is a great narrative through line to end off the stuff with the Rokodaki and the ghosts as Tanjiro defeats him with some cool techniques. It's nothing too crazy, but it does what it needs to do, and I think that's the great way to describe Demon Slayer. It is snappy. It doesn't stop. It just keeps going, keeps going. It has such a lightning fast pace and knows when to stop and really let things like kind of muster with you for a bit. As we get like a slow down scene with after Tanjiro beats it with the hand demon, and Tanjiro getting to really talk with the hand demon. Not directly, but like when he stops and prays for that demon. I think this is the first time you really get to see Tanjiro's kindness displayed on full front, where he's fighting this basically a child murderer, but he's still so empathetic towards them. And I think a lot of haters towards Demon Slayer, mindless idiots, like to say, man, Tanjiro's such a little pussy. How he stops and cries over every little demon, and they make the joke where demon dies Tanjiro, and he cries a bunch, and it's like, wow, guys, you're so clever, you're so smart, you're so smart, you're so intuitive. We're like demon slayer. Like, bro, shut the fuck up. You know what you're talking about. Like, this is like Tanjiro's core character trait, his kindness. He's not, oh, I forgive you, murderer. I understand where you're coming from. I know, like, what you must go through must have been hard. That doesn't excuse the things that you did. Like, if you probably didn't pay attention if you hate Demon Slayer, because I don't know how the fuck you hate this series. But Tanjiro even never like gets to see these. But if you notice, even though they repent and they cry and they're not even fully repent, a lot of the times, even though they like cry and they remember their human selves towards the end, they are never forgiven. Their last moments are usually seen with them being swallowed up by the flames of hell, because even if they do remember their human selves, they still kill, and that's not gonna like be something that we can just, you know, forget and forgive about. And I think that's Demon Slayer's like, strongest point. I love the fighting, but just those emotional moments just really get me with Demon Slayer. I think that honestly might be my favorite aspect of it. Oh man, the fight scenes. It's pretty good too. And the soundtrack and the visuals and the openings and the characters and the fight scenes and the power system that's so cool. And I can sit here and gush about Demon Slayer forever. But now we're on to the second arc. The first mission arc, or the Swamp Demon arc. This is probably the weakest arc of Demon Slayer. Now, we'll have a whole discussion about the Sunrise Countdown when we get there, but this arc is literally just evil demon kidnapping women, Tanjiro kills at the end. It's not complicated, but I do think it does shine in its smaller moments, like when Tanjiro gives the guy whose girlfriend died, the her fiance, I mean, the ribbon of her, and he's like, what am I gonna do? What am I supposed to do now? She's dead, and she was all I had. And he lashes out at Tanjiro for it. But Tanjiro just smiles at him with this, like, I understand smile. And the guy starts crying. He's like, you understand. I'm sorry, I yelled at you. You don't deserve this. It's such a simple moment, but it really brings out the best in Tanjiro's character. Only for him to walk away and clench his fist and be pissed off, thinking about Muzan, as this arc introduces Muzan, kind of. As it really introduces Tanjiro's like, this is such a great character building scene. I think when people talk about Demon Slayer's plot being very simple, yeah, but it makes up for that in characters. Just because a plot's simple doesn't mean it's bad. And if you think that, you're the simple-minded one. Demon Slayer, well, it isn't a complex plot. The themes of what it shows in that plot and its characterization and its everything else really get to shine because there is no I wonder if this could be a 5D twist villain at the end. No, it's the demon bad, the hero good, and they kill him, and you get to watch this fun, amazing, emotional ride in between that. And there's twists and turns on how the demon powers work and how our characters surpass them, their limits, if you would, during all this. But at the end of the day, it is pretty simple. And I think this arc right here is probably not the best showcasing of that. I think this is a pretty weak arc. The demon's weak, but that one character scene at the end. This is the first time we get to see Nezuko turn him. There's some great action. I think this arc is probably the weakest arc, and we'll talk about Sunrise Countdown way later, way later on. But this is probably like the least entertaining arc of Demon Slayer, and it's still good. It's still better than a lot of arcs in anime. But this is just like here to introduce you to Blood Demon art and show you Tanjiro's fighting and introduce Nezuko's fighting and introduce concepts. It's kind of just not supposed to be about the characterization, which I think is a huge part of Demon Slayer. And this, there's still some great fighting and everything else in it, but this arc's pretty lame. Now to the last arc of the one arcs I want to talk about today. um, the Asakusa Arc. I think this is when Demon Slayer really starts getting its shit together. I love Final Selection. I kind of like First Mission. Asakusa is bussin'. This is the shit. This is when Demon Slayer really starts to get it together right now. I mean, like, the plot is not the most interesting in the world, but the scene where Tanjiro finally like gets to confront Muzan, like, this is the final boss. Like, this is the end game. There's no more after him. I've read the whole manga. Trust me, there's nothing after Muzan. And we just meet him right now in like the third arc of the series. And like, what is this, episode 5 in the anime? Like, that's insane. This is like Demon Slayer's fast pacing. I can gush it out all day, but this is where everything in Demon Slayer really gets to start to shine. Um, the scene where Tanjiro gets to meet up with Muzan, and it's so intimidating, and you're like, oh shit, are they gonna fight? No, that can't possibly happen. And you're right, but when we get to see that Muzan has a daughter and a wife, it's like, what? It's about this huge plot twist and revelation that's honestly kind of spooky. Do they know? Do they not know? And it's never answered, by the way. If you don't know, every time we see Muzan, he's taken on a different appearance in society with the kid in season 2 and some other stuff later on. But like he's able, the fact that he's so like slimy, and then he goes from place to place, shape shifting and taking on the lives of people is so like creepy and cool, and that's why I love like Muzan as a villain. Um, we could talk about something going down later, guys, but this is like this makes Muzan seem intimidating as shit. And then he turns that guy into a demon, and Tanjiro doesn't want to kill him because he thinks there's something he can do. As the Muzan's getting away, Tanjiro starts yelling, like screaming, like, "I'll hunt you down, I'll kill you, I'll always find you." And Muzan's like, "Just ignore him, honey. That guy's obviously just crazy or whatever." But in the back of his mind, he's thinking of the guy with the Urahara earrings and the mark on his head and the red hair, red eyes, and manga readers, we know who that is. We know who that is. Um, but this is like it's like a really good scene that really starts establishing things. And then after that, we get to meet Lady Tamio and not Yushiro. I don't even remember the sidekick's name, honestly. He's such a nothing character. Like, okay, he's really fun comic relief. He has some cool powers, and he makes a comeback in the end of the manga. He's a character I really wish we got to learn a little bit more about outside of this. He's a character I'm not going to be able to remember his name of. Um, but Lady Tamiya is this good demon who's a doctor trying to find a cure, and she's going to be really plot relevant, especially towards the end of the manga. She's such an interesting character this early on in the series. Again, with more development, I could talk about Demon Slayer's lack of the characters that are really good, but the characters that didn't get development I couldn't give less of a shit about. And I think it's like there's no medium ground for a lot of these characters. I think that's my biggest problem with the series, and I could I could keep talking about that, but I don't think this is the video for that. But we get to meet I don't even remember their names anymore. I used to remember the two demons' names because they're super like gross on online competitive in the uh, Kami Chronicles, but I just don't remember their names. They're really cool. They have super unique and cool powers. They're so fun. Like the ball girl at least is really fun. The other guy's fucking annoying or whatever. And his fight against Tanjiro is pretty cool, and he's a really cool power. And how he's like the only demon in the show that like while they're burning away is like spiteful and just trying to fuck over Tanjiro in his last breaths. I think that's really interesting. I'm like, why don't other demons do this? Like, there are multiple other demons that like should have fucked over Tanjiro in their last seconds, and I don't remember like no, I guess other demons get like redemption in the last second, and this guy just wanted to be a dick to his last second. And the fact like it's a pretty tenseful scene. And we get Nezuko versus the demon, and she gets like her power amp and stuff with the Met after she loses her leg, she heals it, and then she becomes stronger. And well, this isn't exactly a thing that's ever explained, not even in the manga. She just has these amps, and she continuously gets stronger almost out of nowhere, and this is actually one of the parts where like it's kind of bullshit, but it's really cool bullshit, so I don't even particularly care. And Nezuko scaling is really fucking crazy. But I think she gets a chance to shine here, and then we get the huge like plot twist and stuff with uh Lady Tomio using her blood demon art, which hallucinates people and demons and stuff. She uses it to lower the guard of the demon. She basically uses her move that lets them basically be put in like a drunken state, and since they have their like they can't think straight and stuff, uh, they accidentally talk about Lord Muzan, which activates the curse, self-destructing and killing them, which I think is a very brutal scene that really like sets the tone with Muzan again. How horrible he is even to demons, because early in the arc we get to see the whole scene with him basically like slaughtering through some gang members on the side of the street, which is again right tone setter, and it makes a lot more sense once you've read the manga too. Like when he snaps at the fact that they say he's unhealthy, and he doesn't really care when they're like making fun of him before that. But he's like when he calls him unhealthy, you have like a pale skin. He like snaps, and if you know his backstory and stuff, like that makes a lot more sense in retrospect. And this is when he really starts getting on with the Urahara earrings, and this is when he sends the two demons after Tanjiro and Nezuko. Actually, just Tanjiro. I don't think he knew or cared about Nezuko at this point. But that's the end of the fight for the most part. I love the part when Tanjiro is like fucked up after the fight against I don't fucking hand eye demon guy, and uh, he's like basically crawling towards Nezuko with like his sword in his mouth. And he just tries to keep fighting. Tanjiro's determination is fucking insane. I honestly, I would call it cliche if he wasn't so resolute in his convictions. Tanjiro is such a fucking cool character. And then the arc ends. Lady Tomio is like, "Hey, do you want to let Nezuko stay here with us? So she's safe against other demons." And Tanjiro's like, "No, I want to keep her with me because no matter what, we can't be separated ever again." Which is a wholesome. It's sweet. It's a very beautiful moment. And then we get a little teaser for Zenitsu, my favorite character, and I'll get a bunch into Zenitsu and Inosuke and all them in the next video when we talk about the mansion arc and the spider demon arc. I'll see you guys then. This was really fun. I think I really like the less scripted stuff. The next video is going to be Black Clover. I'm reading it right now, and I'm really actually super enjoying it. But that's spoilers for then. Bye.